Hello everyone. Welcome to Confessions Jury, where Reddit's AITAH stories go on trial. Make sure to listen carefully and express your verdict in the comments section below. Moving on to the first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for disowning my parents after inheriting a large sum and refusing to help them out? My parents had a rough marriage, frequently dragging me into their arguments. They always made it seem I was the main cause for all their problems. They had terrible spending habits and always indulged way above their needs and limits. My grandfather, who had been my rock, became estranged from my parents due to their money-asking behavior. I spent most weekends at his house, where I felt safe and loved, far from the chaos at home. As soon as I turned 18, I moved out of my parents' house immediately and stayed with my grandfather. A month ago, my grandfather passed away. He left me a significant inheritance, money that would change my life. I only received the amount last week. He had always told me to be responsible with money and to never let it control me, something I took to heart after witnessing my parents' financial struggles and irresponsible decisions. After his death, my parents approached me about the inheritance. They were drowning in debt, having taken out loans and credit cards to cover living expenses and buy stuff after my dad lost his job during COVID. My mom works part-time. Their financial issues had escalated and were now on the verge of foreclosure. They saw my inheritance as a way out. When they asked for my help, I felt a surge of anger. These were the same parents who had belittled me, often making me feel like a burden. I had always been the one to sacrifice my own needs for their sake, and now they wanted to exploit me. After giving it not so much of thought, I decided to refuse their request for financial help. When I told them, their reaction was explosive. They screamed at me, hurling insults and accusations. They claimed I was selfish and ungrateful for all the sacrifices they made for me. My dad's anger quickly escalated to violence. He slammed his fist against the wall, fracturing his own wrist. My mom joined in, yelling and threatening to cut me out of their lives completely, and generally trashing my house. I called the police. When they arrived, my parents were still in a rage, shouting at me, throwing things around and blaming me for their problems. The officers tried to calm them down, but my dad continued to berate me, insisting that I was ruining the family. They ultimately decided to take my parents aside to talk to them separately while I stayed in another room. They came out and asked me whether I wanted to press charges. As a last act of gratitude, I said no and asked them to wait outside while I had a last talk with them. After the police went outside, my parents were quiet, but the tension in the house was palpable. I told them basically to never contact me again, and if I ever saw them near my house, I'd have them arrested. I realized then that I had taken a stand that would forever change our relationship. I had made the choice to prioritize my future and well-being over their demands, even if it meant losing them entirely. They told me the money had gotten into my head, and that I'll face karma, and they hoped I'll suffer immensely. Even though I don't love my parents, I'm left with guilt and uncertainty. I have a chance to build a better life, but it comes at the cost of my conscience and familial relationship. Am I the bad person? What do you think about this one? Lay down the hammer in the comments section, and let's move on to the second case. Case 2. Am I the bad person for suing my cousin for $6,000 to pay for my hearing aids after he threw me in the pool? My family is all on my cousin's side for this issue, and I wanted some outside judgment. My cousin, 25M, has always been the golden child of our generation. He's funny, good-looking, and outgoing, not to mention a boy amongst girls. He's always loved to mess around and play pranks. For the record, I really dislike this cousin. I think he's irresponsible, childish, and annoying. I have had hearing problems for years. I recently got a $6,000 pair of hearing aids. Recently, at my grandmother's birthday party, we were all eating and drinking on the back porch. My grandmother has a pool. My cousin decided he was going to throw me in the pool because it would be funny to ruin my hair that I just got done that day. I repeatedly told him to stop and put me down in a very serious and not playful at all tone. He threw me in the pool, and my hearing aids were ruined. Afterwards, when I told him what happened, he basically said, "Whoops, didn't know you had hearing aids now." When I told him the cost of them and that he would have to replace them, he freaked out and said, "No way." My family didn't want me to make him pay for them because I significantly out-earn him. and also everyone else in the family. He was in college at the time, barely making ends meet in a call center job. His girlfriend and him have a baby, and they live in a one-bedroom apartment. He refused to pay, so I took him to court. I won. He refused to make the payments after, so I took him back to court, and his wages are now being garnished for the maximum amount, which is 20% of his total wages. It pushed him over the edge of what he could afford, so he's had to work extra and drop out of college to be able to pay their rent. My family is absolutely fuming at me. I think he made one bad choice after the other, and he has never given a sincere apology during this whole ordeal. Had he gave a real apology after the incident and asked if he could wait till he finished school to pay me back, I would have been fine with it. But the entitled little prick is digging his feet in at every move. Am I the bad person? What about that? Who would you rule for? Stay down your ruling, and let's move on to our third case. Case 3. Am I the bad person for throwing my pregnant sister-in-law's groceries away? My brother and his wife Laura, who is 7 months pregnant, are staying with us for a week or so since he's interviewing for jobs in the city my family and I are in. My kids love having their aunt and uncle around, and everything's been great. Yesterday, Laura went out and came back with groceries. I thanked her, but told her that we don't expect them to do this. The kitchen is stocked, and that we're just enjoying having them. She said that she wanted to, and that most were cravings she's been having. I started helping her unload the bags and noticed that a lot of snacks were with peanuts, cookies, crackers, PB, even some sort of cake fusion. It all made me uneasy because she knows my oldest son, 8M, is extremely allergic. I don't keep anything of the kind in our home because we've had an incident when he was younger where we almost lost him. I didn't want to be rude, but I told her that I'm not comfortable with having the stuff in the house. She told me that she would be careful, that she wouldn't eat it around him or his siblings, and that she'd clean up after herself, that she was having intense cravings and needed them. Look, I've had 4 kids and kind of get where she's coming from, although I never had to have something, but every woman is different. I made sure my son knew not to touch any of it and to leave her alone when she's eating them. That was that. Today, I woke up early to make breakfast and opened the fridge only to be greeted by strawberries, dipped in PB left out without a container to chill. The PB jar wasn't sealed properly next to them, and there were sandwiches on a plate because she likes the bread cold and soggy. I was pissed. I've read enough about airborne contamination to know that you can't really determine it, but I wasn't risking it. I grabbed a bag and started throwing everything in it, our groceries, hers. I didn't care. I was going to take the bag, drive to a shelter, and let them know the situation. Laura woke up while I was on my rampage, came down and asked all upset what I was doing. I was snippy with her and didn't try to hide it. We got in an argument with her defensively, saying that I can't do this, that the baby needs it, and that it's cruel to put a pregnant woman through unsatisfied cravings. I told her bluntly that I don't give a single fuck. If she can't keep to her word, then I won't either, and that she'll live without her craving. My son can't say the same with his allergy. She went back upstairs, packed her bag, and came back down, grabbed the bag of food, and left in a huff. My brother was at his interview and called me half an hour later to ask me what happened. He was upset with his wife, but also with me, because nothing happened, and at the end of the day, my son is fine. I told my husband when he came back from work, and he's completely on my side. Am I the bad person? Update. Like some people had predicted in the comments on the other sub, Laura did go straight to my family and started complaining. She hadn't twisted anything. Told them the full honest story, and my mother was livid. She called me panting like she ran a marathon after she berated Laura to make sure my son is okay. So I can only imagine the riot act she read her. Apparently, even my stepdad gave Laura one of his disapproving frowns. My brother came back in the evening to get his stuff, since Laura had only packed hers for some reason. He did apologize for what she did, said that he'll have a chat with her once she's calmed down. She's been inconsolable. He told me that she's been crying since she left my mom's house, and that she now feels unwelcome and unloved in our family, and he blames me for it. My husband butted in and told him that it's enough, that whatever she's feeling doesn't cover half of what we felt, and that she needs to get over herself. That I've been scrubbing the house from top to bottom for hours because of her actions. I did get panicky and went on to deep clean the whole house, especially the kitchen, but anyway. My brother left after he said that there's no leveling with us when we're being this stubborn. Now that I've had time to get out of the state I was in, I do feel bad that she's distressed and feels unwelcome in our family. That was never my goal. I've been debating sending her an apology. Not for my actions because I stand by them, but for the way I went about it. I shouldn't have allowed the stuff in our house in the first place, and could have been calmer about it after I opened the fridge. What do you think the fair ruling should be? You hold the power of judgment. State your ruling in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.